Accessing improved hip mobility starts from acquiring hip control or strength. We're going to utilize a ground position that can help us to start from even where we may have a lot of limitations in hip range of motion, but really sort of addressing, compiling on some control and strength to this. In a seated position like I am on the ground, we're going to bring one leg into external rotation and one leg into internal rotation. Now mind you, the hip is a triarticular joint. That means it has the ability to move through flexion, extension, AB, adduction, and as well internal, external rotation. Most of the limitations we find orthopedically that hinder sport performance, in the hip specifically, is limitations in hip internal rotation. So this is what we call a half W sit position, where one leg, right, is in a W, almost W full position, and the other leg is in a half external rotation position. The reason why they call it a half W is because there are some individuals that can sit in this W position like so, but it is not very orthopedically sound as for most adults. It will just be a goal that is not worth achieving, that won't have any sort of improvements in overall sport performance. So in this half W position, I can first start to explore just how much available passive range I have. So I'll start with the hip that's in external rotation. I'm going to lay over the hip, right, much like I would with a pigeon pose stretch, and work my way around. Now passively, I can see that my hip is able to get close to my trunk, or in this case, my trunk close to my hip, regardless of which there shouldn't be any limitation for me to get this part of my hip to touch my chest. Let's see now if I can do it with control. So I can actually recruit some muscle that'll help me, but obviously it gets to a point where it's very difficult to do. A good place for many people to start with is actually leaning off the hip first, attempting to bring it up with control and back down. Notice how my foot is on the ground for this. Our progression would be to raise the entire leg up. Once this becomes easier, I can actually put myself in a closer position, because now I'm going to be using a different subset of muscle fibers that are really only designed to help give me control in a shorter position. But again, I can keep the foot down first, and then progress to attempting to lift the foot and the knee together. Now in addressing the leg that's in internal rotation, here I'm going to first check how much passive motion I have. So I'm going to bring myself back into extension and work my way around it. And as well bring myself towards it. Now when the hip is in internal rotation, we are essentially locking the joint out. So I wouldn't coach too much attempting to lock it anymore. I'd say just get to a point where it feels like there's some tension, but really when we lean back, we'll be able to access a bit more of what we call like a stretch along some of the muscles that contribute to the lateral aspect of the leg. Now, what I'll want to do for this leg is start the same, keeping the foot planted down. I'm going to see first, can I raise my knee up? Almost like you would with a clamshell exercise, right? Now I want to see, can I raise the leg and the foot up together? Again, almost like a hip abduction exercise. Now the internal range comes into this portion. Can I actually keep the knee down and raise the leg up? This becomes easier if I lean towards the leg, and harder if I lean away from the leg. See, I'm really struggling with this one. Regardless, starting from a point that allows you to at least achieve more of like an endurance, almost 20 repetitions, or simply just holding the position for a matter of about maybe 3 to 5 seconds would be a place to start. Now, aside from those strength-specific exercises for the hip internal external rotators in this position, this half W, I can also work on transitioning, going back from one side to the other. There's also a couple other transitions that I can use. I can use a transition of picking the leg up, extending the knee, and coming down into a half runner pose, and then making the transition the other way onto this leg. I can use my hands for assist, right? Actually fudge that one up there. I'll just do it with one leg first to show you guys. Or I can progress to using no arms for support, and then going through the transition just like so.